tonight we're going to look at T number 2, not the. So I was thinking this week, last Friday, I took a placation date with my granddaughter. And those are the best days that you can do. I promise you. If you have the opportunity to take a placation date with your granddaughter, do so. She turned 18 months old Friday, and my son had to go do something. My daughter-in-law had to work. It was such a chore to play all day. And my wife just wishes I would grow up. But the time that I spent with her, nobody can take away from me. Because there are memories that they can't take away from me. The time that she shared with me, that I shared with her, they can't take away. Because I saw her chase the dogs with her toys. I saw the dogs play with her. And I saw her do these, and I experienced these. And these are the times and the kinds of experiences that we all can share with one another. You get to share your time. And it reminded me that Guy was talking to God one day. And Guy said, God, what is 1,000,000 years like to you? God says, just like a second to you. Oh, really? Like a second to you? Well, God, what's $1,000,000 like to you? Just like a penny to you. Well, God, can I have $1,000,000? Just a second. Really? Well, that joke's not a new joke, and you've heard it because Pastor tried to tell the same joke, and I thought, well, well, he didn't do as good a job as I, because I gave the man a real name, you know. But the thing is, we can relate to time in some facet of degrees. And I thought, well, you know, I'm going to do this little academic study, like I know what I'm talking about. How long does a second last? And a waveform on an oscillating machine, and you have a small illustration there. It comes down, it crosses the wire, and comes down again. And when scientists have discovered a new metal, I don't know how long that new metal was ago, but that waveform would last 9 billion times in 1 second. So that's how long a second lasts. However long it takes for that atom to create that radiant cycle 9 billion times. So just in case you doubt my word, I gave you the formula right there to figure it out for yourself. Just in case. Because I are not good at math. But anyway, the thing is, time is not something that we can create. It's not something we can recapture. It's not something we can build, buy, or give. We can spend it, we can share it, we can waste it. We can spend it, we can share it, or we can waste it. Maria, would you give me 10 minutes of your time? Just 10 minutes. Here, I'll take it. You can't do that. You can share your time with me, but you can't give me something that you cannot physically transfer. You cannot take something that you do not have a physical, atomic whole mass and transfer. And time is of the essence, they say. And essence is something you can smell, something that you could taste, something you can hear, and none of those can you feel. You can see the wind? No. You can feel the wind, but you can't throw the wind. So much like time. The very essence of time God created. And He has His own schedule. And I looked at that time itself has got to be an important factor for God. If he wasn't such an important factor, why do you think it was mentioned almost 1,000 times? 785 times it's mentioned. Time is mentioned in the Bible. There's a factor of time more often to creating it 1,000 times. There is a past, which is one of the facets of time. In fact, time is broken into 3 facets. The past is what we've grown through. The present, the events that we're going to grow through. And the future is the events that we're growing to. Now, I'm not so sure that I want to share you with all my past events. And I don't know that I want to know what you've been to, because every one of us has a skeleton that we really don't want you to see the bare bones of. And if I were to ask you to list a verse in the Bible that relevates or that mentions time, many of you might bring up Genesis 1:1, in the beginning. Shall we start reading that first? No. I think the one that stands out in most people is Ecclesiastes 3. There is a time for all, and we're going to let that blank. There's a time to be born, a time to die, a time. And Ecclesiastes 3, 1 through 8 is there is everything. There is a season, a time to every purpose under the heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck that which was planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather the stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and time to lose, time to keep and time to cast away, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And most people would find that those times are pretty much what we would deem applicable for every aspect of life. And we would also say that would make an even keel, because you would say that a time to kill would be gathering the food in. That's the lifestyle of that you would have to live. I'll leave it at that. But the gift that we have, we can't give, but we share. And that's the time. I didn't appreciate the time that the pastor puts in on a sermon until I started writing this program. I really didn't. And forgive me for not appreciating it. I really didn't. And I don't mean it to say anything that I just didn't understand, because I hadn't done it that way. I didn't appreciate the amount of work that a nurse would go through to become a nurse until I saw the tests that my daughter-in-law went through to understand that she had to know everything about head to toe, left to right, front to back, to be able to take care of the babies in the neonatal unit. I mean, it's the intricate body that you've got to be able to take care of. And the babies, they can't tell you what hurts. They're just going to cry. It's just as bad on the other end of a geriatric. They can't tell you sometimes. The intricacy of being able to tell you how much weight this building will support on the roof. Somebody has to spend the time, and we have to be able to do that. But now I have taken you to the time that it takes time. It takes time. Church takes time. Church takes time. Your time, my time, his time, her time. And the church doesn't stop at the 4 doors. The church doesn't stop at the car doors. The church doesn't stop at your front door. The church starts at your front door. Starts at those 4 doors. And it ends when they lower that door. It's hard to think about it. Seriously. Because once you accept Christ and you're willing to do the very best that you can, and your commitment is serious and your commitment is sincere, what is the commitment? To share the good news? To share the gospel? And it's almost like till death do us part. It's not until we decide just to stop. Armin Morales of the Imperials, he was 70 years old. He said, I'm going to retire. So they disbanded the group. Time. Moved back to Hawaii where he was. And he got there and bought a house. And he said, I felt like God was talking to me. He said, God, what do you want? And he said, God asked me, what are you doing? God, I'm retired. He said, I didn't give you permission to retire. He said, what do you mean, God? I'm 70 years old. He said, I didn't ask you how old you were. Armin Morales is back in the full-time gospel. Back, they regenerated and revitalized the Imperials. And they're still singing today. Doesn't give you the right to sit down just because you turn 70. God didn't say, serve me till you turn 70. He didn't say, serve me till you turn 60, did he? He didn't say, serve me till I call you home, is what I think he's saying. So that serving takes time. And the time is until he calls you home. Now, I know that we take the time at work. My work time is from 6 to 3. Yours is from 6 to 3, 6 to 3. So our bosses expect us to be at work from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Sometimes 3 a.m. feels like. But the thing is, they expect us to be there. But God doesn't expect us to be there from 6 to 3 per se. Because what if he wakes you up in the morning? Joyce is needing prayer. God, I don't feel like praying for Joyce right now. Don't get up and pray. Joyce, what's wrong with Joyce? She needs prayer for me. Doesn't matter what's wrong with Joyce. Get up and pray for Joyce. 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 And I fall back to sleep. I didn't take the time. Now, what's wrong with Joyce? They just put Joyce in the hospital because of Matt's heart attack. And God reminds me that I told you to get up and pray for her. Now, what happens if I need prayer and I ask Joyce to pray for me? And Joyce just can't pray for me because she physically can't, because she had a heart attack. And she physically can't. Now, that sort of come back to haunt me, if you will, for lack of better terms. I didn't take the time, and it comes back to show me what happens if I don't take the time. And the analogies always don't seem to fit, but I try to make them to show that they will come back. Sometimes our lack of participation shows a lack of participation to help us when we need to help ourselves. When we look at the past, time shows us that God has, in Galatians 4:4, but when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, looking for the term, and I'm looking at the term, of the fullness of time. The fullness of time to me, it meant that time and that season had come. Everything that needed to be done at that point for Christ's birth had come. Everything that needed to be done was completed. Because when Christ's crucifixion was to be, everything that needed to be done was completed. As soon as Christ was resurrected, our need for sacrifice was done. Time frame. Past, present, future. Ours was met completely. So, what is our fullness level? Our fullness level has been met by the blood of Christ. Through the past, we don't have to worry about the past because Christ gave us our past. History serves us as a useful tool. That's when it serves as a method to teach us to avoid roads that we should not go. It will serve us as actions that we should not repeat. And it will show us methods that we can use. As God told Lot to leave Sodom and Gomorrah, but told him not to look back, Lot's wife looked back, suffered the consequences. I was talking to Pastor the other day about Esther, and in Esther it was, 4:13. It was, anyway, she was going to, see if I can find it real quick. I'm sorry. I wrote it down. She was going to have to do something, and I apologize, I don't have it here with me. It was the fact that she had to do something, and if she didn't do it, the consequences would have been grave. And I got thinking about that. If she didn't do it, the consequences would have been of no use in one side. For her, it wouldn't have made any difference to her, but to somebody else, it would have made a great deal of difference. However, if I flip that, the negative consequences would have been just as, so nobody knew. For example, if Bobby comes to church, doesn't turn the sound system on, nobody's going to know. Okay? So would they know that he was even here? And if he didn't turn it on, they would assume he wasn't here. So what good would it have been if he was here? That's the consequence. If he doesn't spend the time and do what he's supposed to be doing, the consequence, it would have been of no consequence at all because it wouldn't have done any good. When you have the time to spend it, you have to do and you have to make that time count. So when we look into the present, we are going to grow through. Let's start the section of how long does now last. Now is a very short word. And I was looking at the word now. And every time you even utter the word, before you actually complete the syllable, the word now is become history. Now is history. And I'm thinking, that is just really, I don't need to think that deep because now is history. Psalms 31:14, but I trust in you, O Lord. You are my God. My times are in your hand. Rescue me from the hand of my enemies and from my persecutors. It doesn't matter what is going through from me right now. I'm going to be safe. Because now my God has got me in his hands. So what God has got for you to do today in this service, today in this church, whether today is April, May, June, or the tenure that you spend here with us, that's the now that you're here. And I think the now is the most fun time to be in because it shows an activity of presence. And it's the gift that God gives us on a daily basis. And we hear it so many times. That's why they call it the present. It's the very gift of God. And the parable of the bridegroom is one of the best New Testament of being prepared for the now. Because we all know that the 10 virgins went out. 5 were wise enough to take enough fuel for their lamps. 5 were not. 5 had them. The 5 went back to collect their fuel. They missed because they weren't there when the bride came to collect when the bridegroom came to collect his bride. They weren't there in the now time. They weren't there in the present to grow through. They had gone back. They had stepped back in time. Because Christ was here now, yet they were there then. And God said, I'm over here now. Where are you? So if your now is in the nursery, if your now is in the praise team, if your now is in the ushers, it doesn't matter. It's what God's called you to do. It's what God has given you the talent for. It's the commitment that you have given to God and you have committed to. It's not for us to judge. But the commitment is for you to keep today. The now is, as I said earlier, it's the tenure that you're here. We don't want to play, oh, he can do a better job than me. Let him do it. I don't care if you're doing a better job than me. If you can do a better job than me, you can take it more often than me. It's okay. It's okay. You can have more turns. I'll watch. I'm a better watcher than I am a doer sometimes. And then the future. It's where we're growing to. That's the fun part. But we have to get through the now. We have to be faithful in the now to grow through. Ephesians 1:10, as the plan for the fullness of time to unite all things in Him, the things in heaven and the things on earth. John 4:23, yet in time is coming and has come when the true worshipers will worship with the Father in the Spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. The Father seeks people who worship Him. And I can't tell you if you have not had a Holy Spirit movement in the shower in the morning, the first thing, I can't tell you a better way to start a day. You know, turn the shower on, make sure it's hot, because it's hard to do that in the cold water. But for the first thing you do, when you to have a good Father to run through your mind, that is the best way I know to start a day. And I know that if I work through today, that my nows will work to tomorrow. You know, the concept is, I'll get you one tomorrow, as my mom always said. I'm still waiting on tomorrow to get here. But I'm waiting on today to be when my Christ, my Jesus comes back. And when He says, well done, that's going to be the now that I'm looking for. So I'm looking for one more grow period. We grow through yesterday. We're growing through the now, which is the present. We're growing to tomorrow, which is the future. By working and using our time in this presence, in this body. However you are talented. However you benefit this body, it doesn't matter how you do it. You're going to grow in the Lord. As long, I knew you were going to think there's a disclaimer. There is a disclaimer. As long as you do it sincerely as unto Him. If you do it as if I'm going to be judging you and taking names and, oh, he gets a gold star, I'm out of gold stars, so I use them all on myself. If you think I'm going to get you a blue one, I use them on my wife. She likes blue. Gary, you got the green stars. If you do them as unto God, that one gets you the gold crown. Those will get you the pearly streets, the pearly gates, the jasper walls. No, if you do them unto Joyce, do them unto Paul, do them as unto anybody else in here, you'll get a smile. If you do it according to the way they like it, you might get a complaint or coaching or criticizing. Who knows? But the thing is if you do it unto God, you will grow. But I want to encourage you to take the time at home to pray about what you take the time to do here. Because nobody's going to be able to do your job, your talents, the way you can do them. Nobody. Nobody can play the guitar like you can. Nobody. Bobby, you can play with that audio system. I have no idea what you're doing. I can flip the power strip for you if you need it, but I don't know. But I just want to encourage you. It is that vitally important. You do not have one blood vessel in your body that's not working. You do not have one cell on the inside of your body that's not working and doing its job. You do not have one nerve on the inside of your body that's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, because it's there for a reason. Be the nerve that you need to be. And don't get on my nerves now. Be the blood vessel that you need to be. Be the cell that you need to be. But be that which God calls you to be. Pastor.
Redeem the time.